introduce you, Vassily.
Dat is ook een van die hier, hè? Ook een van die standaard.
It's okay? Lily? It's okay? Okay, all right. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias a todos. Thank you for coming. Just a few words just to introduce our very special guest this morning for what will be a wonderful masterclass in Classimachasalan and legend of chess. A round of applause, please, for Mr. Vassily Ivanchuk.
Thank you.
So, I can from here, yes? So I will show you my games from this tournament. In first round I played against one girl from, I don't know, from Holland probably, or from Norway, I don't know. Okay, so I was white, I played d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight g3, d5, Grünfeld defense, bishop f4. I played bishop g7, e3, castle. Another popular line here is c5. And after d takes c5, queen a5. There are a lot of theory, of course. Main move is rook c1 here. But okay, it's another game. So she played castle, and so this is like a gambit variation. So white can take the pawn. C takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, bishop takes c7. But after knight a6, black has good compensation. If, for example, bishop takes a6, queen takes g2, queen f3, queen takes f3, knight takes f3, b takes a6, and this endgame, according to theory, is approximately equal. It's playable for both. White has many moves. For example, rook g1 is possible. And also, if rook c1 here, black has idea to play a5. Such creative move. Idea to play a4 probably. And if bishop takes a5, black can force a draw. Bishop a6 check and bishop b7, and white should play king e2. Okay, so I played rook c1. Another possible line is knight f3 here, but the knight f3, black has several options. For example, c5 is possible. After d takes c5, now queen a5 is possible, or knight e4 is possible as well. Okay, so I played rook c1, and now she played c5. Not so popular move now. Usually black plays here bishop e6, and after bishop e6, white has choice. There are many moves here. For example, if knight f3, d takes c4, knight g5, bishop d5, e4, h6, e takes d5, h takes g5, bishop takes g5, knight takes d5, bishop takes c4, knight b6, bishop b3, knight c6. According to theory, this is more or less equal position. So if queen b3, black plays c5, queen takes b7, queen b6, with good compensation, enough for equality. I mean, here, take a rook is hardly good, because after knight c6, white has problem with development of pieces. Also possible to play b3 here, also possible to take on d5, and after knight takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5 to play b3 now. So white has choice. Also possible to play close position after c5. Okay, so many games was played. Also my games was played, but She played c5, I took on c5, bishop e6. Knight f3, so it's obvious reason. If d takes c4, my plan is to play knight g5 here. I don't know, immediately knight g5 is possible, or after takes, even probably more precise. And black has problem with bishop on e6 and c4 pawn, because if bishop d5, e4 is coming somehow. So she played knight c6, and now white has choice again, a very principal choice. I played bishop e2, solid move. There is sharp line knight g5. After bishop g4, f3, e5, c takes d5 is main move, because if bishop g3, d4 is coming, and black is good here. So c takes d5, e takes f4, d takes c6, queen e7. And now, according to modern computers, the best for white is bishop c4. And evaluation is, white is slightly better, but of course this is a very complicated game. So, but bishop c4 is the best. So bishop e2 I played. Now, again, white wants to play knight g5. If d takes c4, immediately or after takes, probably. Knight g5. And again, black has some problem with c4 pawn. Bishop d5, e4 is coming. If h6, e takes d5, h takes g5, bishop takes g5, knight takes d5, bishop takes c4. But okay, now probably black has enough compensation even for the pawn. I don't know. At least necessary to check. So knight takes c3 is possible, and then knight e5, or even bishop takes c3 is possible to consider, and knight e5. Okay, but also, so d takes c4, also knight e4 is theoretical line, but after knight e4, white can play knight d4. This is the point of white's strategy. And after knight takes d4, e takes d4, knight takes c3, b takes c3, d takes c4, castle, bishop d5, white has pleasant choice. So rook e1 is possible, or even immediately bishop f3, and white is better here because bishop on g7 is passive, and white has active ideas, rook e1, then rook b1 probably. So this is theory. But she also after knight g5, I can add that black can play queen a5 old line. But so knight takes e6, f takes e6. This is also possible. Idea if bishop e2, rook a d8. Knight e4 looks tempting, but after castle, bishop takes c3, c takes d5, white is better here. So rook a d8. Now idea is to play d4. For example, if just castle, black can play d4, e takes d4 now. I don't know. Knight takes d4 is possible. Even rook takes d4 is possible, because after rook takes d4, bishop d2 is only move, and rook d8 is coming. So white has some problem with the pin. And then bishop h6 probably. So I remember after rook d8, queen a4, queen takes c5, and now queen b5 is possible, takes, knight b8, and then knight bd7, rook c8, this endgame. Or instead of queen b5, white can just play castle, d4, takes, bishop e3, these positions. According to theory, white is slightly better. But okay, so after bishop e2, surprisingly for me, she played h6, so it was a novelty for me. Okay, it's hardly a very good move, because black is losing important temper, but the problem, I have big choice, and what I did wasn't the best. The most natural looks just castle here, and after d takes c4 to play queen a4. Probably it was the best objectively, because now pawn c4 is attacked. Also, white is prepared for rook fd1. If, for example, queen a5, white can just take and play knight d4, and after bishop d7 to play bishop c7, after knight c6, bishop takes c4. And here's pawn up, not so easy to take this pawn back. Also possible knight fd7, but okay, rook fd1. So knight takes c5 is losing because rook d8. Black is just losing the piece after rook takes a8 and knight takes a4. Okay, so computer suggests to play g5 here and take with bishop on c3 and knight takes c5. Okay, but for human reason, looks like white should be better, because king is weak somehow. So probably castle was the most natural, the most practical choice in this position. Also. But I played queen b3, also looks tempting, because black played h6, and now when I played queen b3, I only considered knight a5, queen b4, and after knight takes c4, queen takes b7, and I liked my position. Somewhere I want to play bishop c7. But she took on c4, queen takes b7, and just played rook c8, and suddenly situation is not so clear for me. Looks like I am pawn up, everything is okay, but how to play? The problem after natural, black has knight h5, and she is attacking my bishop, and after exchange the bishop, black will have c7 and b8 square for his rook, and black has quite resolvable contraplane. For example, queen b5, knight takes f4, e takes f4, knight d4 probably, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, c6, rook b8, and then rook takes b2, something like this. Okay, but anyway, it was better than what I played. Also, if queen b5, it's possible to consider such a move. After knight h5, bishop takes f4, c4, but now the problem with rook b8 and queen a6 is not possible because knight b4. If queen takes c6, bishop takes c4. It's unpleasant for white somehow because his king in the center and black pieces are very active. So probably castle was the best after knight h5, queen b5, because queen b5 idea, also queen a6 is possible, of course. After knight f4, e takes f4. But if rook fd1, queen a5, and suddenly white has a problem with his queen. Black has direct threats. For example, if white play h3, of course, it's a very stupid move, but now black just winning the piece. Queen b5, queen b5, bishop takes c3. And black just won the piece. So rook c7. Okay, so probably, of course, h3 it's very stupid, but black has threat. Knight takes f4 and rook c7, and not so easy to understand what to do here. Maybe knight d4, however. If knight takes f4, I have knight takes c6. Yes, but now bishop takes d4. And if bishop takes h5, bishop takes c3. At the moment, white is piece down. Okay, white can play bishop f3, but situation is very far from clear. So black can try even play knight d8. Queen takes e7, bishop takes b2. So white has compensation for the piece, but situation is still very unclear. But what I played was even worse. So castle was correct. Okay, probably also queen a6 and queen b5 were moves here. So queen b5, for example, was logical. And now bishop takes c4, probably dubious. Also rook d1 is possible here. Maybe rook d1 is more interesting move, but queen e8 anyway, and black again has unpleasant threat to take on f4 and to play rook b8 and then take on b2. So important that now knight c6 is protected, and white cannot take on c4 because after takes rook b8, white just losing the piece. If queen a4, rook b4, if queen a6, knight b4. But what I did was even worse. So I played e4 here. So idea is clear. I'm fighting against knight h5, so I want to prepare e3 square for my bishop, but unfortunately it just doesn't work. So black has many good possibilities. G5, for example, looks good. Because now if bishop e3, knight g4 is coming. So if bishop g3, knight h5 is coming. But she played queen a5, a very good move. Now knight takes e4 is threat, and I played castle. And now, suddenly white is in big dangers. Okay, she took on c5 with queen, which it looks like natural move, but much better was knight h5, and white is in big trouble. Because if bishop e3, rook c7, queen b5 only move, bishop takes c3, queen takes a5, bishop takes a5. So white is piece down, and white has only 2 pawns against piece, which is not totally enough. So after knight h5, situation is already just very bad for me in move 13 already. So e4 was mistake. Also, according to computer, knight d7 was very strong with idea to take with knight. And again, white cannot play bishop e3 because rook c7 is coming. But she took on c5, it was mistake. Okay, so after queen takes c5, at least I am not worse. And I played h3. Bishop e3 is possible, but after queen a5, again, black has some ideas with like rook c7. Okay, maybe it was possible h3 now to prevent knight g4 if rook c7, queen b5. If queen takes, if rook b7, knight d4 somehow, so it's interesting play at least, probably. But I played h3, so my idea to prepare bishop a3 is e3, not allow any knight g4, but it's hardly good idea, because black has several tactical possibilities. For example, knight takes e4 was possible here. And after knight takes e4, queen f5. This double attack, and problem for white that bishop takes c4 doesn't work. Bishop takes c4, rook takes c4, knight a5, and white is losing material. So bishop e3 is only move, and knight d2, but queen h4, and surely white is fighting only for equality. Okay, with good chances for equality after knight f3. Come back. Because if queen e4, I played knight d2, but okay, queen f6 is possible. Again, white cannot take on c4 because bishop takes c4 and knight. No, not bishop takes. Bishop takes c4 is good for white because after knight a5, queen takes c8. This is, but after bishop takes c4, knight a5 immediately is possible, and white is losing material. So knight takes e4 was really strong. So probably bishop e3 was objectively better. And after queen a5, now to play h3 to prevent knight g4 and to prepare rook d1. But now black has probably knight takes e4 after knight takes e4, rook c7. And suddenly white queen is trapped. So position is very tricky. So I cannot play h3. I have just no time for it. And knight takes. So probably I should play something like knight d2. Maybe this is the best choice for me. Sorry? Rook c7, queen b5, queen takes b5, knight takes b5, rook b7, and now maybe even bishop takes c4 is possible. Or maybe knight d4 is also interesting, necessary to check what is the best. Maybe knight d4. So knight c6 is attacked, so black should take, bishop takes. And then if rook d8, bishop c3 is coming, probably white is... but not sure, because after bishop c3, rook d2 is possible, and rook b2. And then knight takes e4 is coming. So still position very tricky. Okay, so after rook b7, probably bishop takes c4. But after bishop takes c4, white has problem. Bishop takes c4 and knight e5 is coming. And white is losing material. Because if rook b4, a6, if rook c5, knight d7 is possible. So still not easy to play. Black has many tactical ideas, as you see. But okay, so I played h3, so knight takes e4 was strong, but she played knight a5. So queen a6 only move, rook c6. Bishop e3 only move. Queen b5 could be idea if black takes and knight takes e4, but now white has good compensation because e6 bishop is attacked, so black knights are hanging somehow. But the problem is that after queen b5, black can take immediately without taking the queen, and here is nothing good. After queen c5, knight takes c5. So bishop e3 is correct move. Queen takes e3, queen takes a5. So it looks like black has very nice position because of two bishops advantage, but it's not so clear because white also has some threats. Somehow, for example, if queen f4, knight d4 is possible, this idea to take on e6. Knight g4 now is not possible because g3 is coming. So, and then white will take on a6, and white has target for attack. So she played queen b6. Also, queen c5 was a reasonable choice, in my opinion. Exchange queens by this way. So after queen takes c5, rook takes c5. And now after knight d4, for example, black can just play bishop d7 to prepare rook b8. And looks like position is totally acceptable for black. Okay, white is not worse, but for example, rook d1, rook b8, rook c2, something like this is possible. But black has surely no reason to complain in this position. So many moves are possible. e6, for example, is possible. e5 maybe also, but e5 I'm not sure because knight f3, bishop c6, knight d2. Okay, even here rook d8 somehow. So, spicy position. For example, d4 is possible, c takes b3, knight takes b3, rook takes d1, bishop takes d1, rook c4, knight a5. If bishop e2, rook b4, so rook c5, and this is draw after knight b3. So queen c5 was alternative, but she played queen b6, reasonable move, queen takes b6, rook takes b6. If a takes b6, knight d4, obviously very good for white, so rook takes b6, black is attacking pawn b2, but fortunately for me I have time for initiative. If rook c2, black can play comfortably knight d7 with an excellent position, but I played knight a4, so it's very concrete position. And now she played rook a6, hardly the best choice, so much more natural was rook b4, and after knight c5, rook takes b2, knight takes e6, f takes e6, bishop takes c4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, king h7, and this position looks like drawish somehow. For example, if rook c7, black can play bishop f6, and if rook takes a7, knight takes f2 is coming. With the idea of rook f2, king f2, bishop d4 check. So, this idea. So rook b4 was correct, but she played rook a6. This wasn't the best. I took on e6. Bishop takes e6. Knight d4 looks also tempting idea. And then take with knight, but it doesn't work because black can just take. And after knight e6, rook takes f2 is coming. And rook takes g2 mates, so white has no time to play knight g5 and knight takes e4 because this is just mate. So now black has choice, so it's not obvious where king is better, on h8 or h7. Probably king h8 was more precise, even only after knight e5 to play king h7. After e5, knight e4. The difference if rook c7, knight g5. This is idea. After knight g5, a takes g5, white pawns is hanging. And with king on h7, white can just take on e7 and pawn is protected. But with king on h8, black can take. So, well, okay, knight e5 looks promising, king h7, bishop f7, but black has chances to survive here. For example, knight takes e4 is possible, bishop takes g6, king g8. If knight c4, rook e2. Okay, so she played king h7 and now e5. And now the problem for black, king on h7, so white has clear plan, rook c7, takes the pawn. So she played knight h5. If knight e4, rook c7, so now if knight g5, I can just take and play this. And black is in trouble. For example, if rook e2, with idea to take on e5, white can play rook c1, simple, with idea rook c7. If rook takes f2, bishop d5, and again, rook c7 is very unpleasant threat. If, okay, rook c2, black has chances for draw, but white has pawn up, at least they can take and take on a7. Okay, but I'm not sure that it's really possible to win in this position. Okay, something like this. So knight e4 probably was the best chance. But also after knight g5, maybe rook takes e7, even more precise. So I can allow knight f3 gf. So for example, this, rook c1. If rook f2, rook c7. And black has no perpetual check, because white king will go to c1. And white wins. And also, for example, if this, oh, of course, white has many winning moves, but the simplest is take, and now it's important that a2 square is under control of bishop. But after knight h5, I just play rook c7, and now situation is very bad for black, because two pawns is attacked. She has no possibility to defend e7 pawn, so I took a5, she played. Okay, maybe the best was to take on e6 and to play rook f7, at least not allow me to have a rook on 7 rank, but anyway, this position is bad for black. So a5, rook d1, knight e6, rook a6, a4, and just rook a6. Rook d7, a3, not so clear. Because if rook e7, rook g8, anyway, this is a bad position for black, but not so easy. a2, rook b1, check is threat. If king h2, rook takes f2, so black has chances to survive here. But rook a6 is last good move, and now a4 pawn is stopped, and rook d7 is coming. Black has no contraplay, so rook e2, rook d7, rook e4, rook a7, rook g8, h4, g3. Okay, she played bishop f8, but anyway, black has no chances to survive. So this was my first game. My second game was with Teodora Ivanchuk. So in opening she played rook e1 line. Okay, now again black has choice, and important, for example, a5 is possible. But after a5, knight c3, knight e4, queen c2. Knight takes c3, b takes c3. According to theory, it's promising line, because after a5, this structure is more promising for white than with pawn on a7. Also possible to play d5, this type of position. Now knight b d7 or knight a6. Also possible to play c5. After c5, d5, e takes d5, knight h4 is main theoretical line. Knight e4, c takes d5, bishop takes h4, bishop takes e4, bishop f6. Now knight c3 is possible, queen c2 is possible. Many games was played. Also my game against Czech grandmaster Vlastimil Babula. I played with black. But now I played queen c8. Again, white has many moves in this position, but knight c3 is logical. Also possible to play bishop g5, h6, just takes knight c3, and then e4 is coming. But knight c3, knight e4, bishop d2. So Very logical, because there is line knight c3, knight e4, bishop d2, and for example, after bishop f6, the most popular line according to theory is rook c1, but Dingliren played rook e1. So probably she wants to declare that rook e1 in this position more useful move for white than queen c8 for black, and probably she is totally right. White is ready to push d5. Now I took immediately because I wanted to avoid d6 is possible, but of course white can play rook c1 now, so white has choice. But d5 is principal move, and after knight d2, white can take with knight now. And then, for example, if e5, white can play b4, and then a3, e4, so try to play in queen's flank, and black has problem with his bishop on b7, especially with queen on c8. So I afraid a little bit this type of position. Okay, probably a5 is more precise here, but anyway, white has ideas with bishop h3, probably not so strong, but who knows. Also possible a3 to prepare b4 if knight a6, rook b1, and white is prepared for b4 if bishop f6, queen c2, for example, or also knight e4 is possible. So I took on d2. My idea was to force him to take with queen. So queen takes d4, d2, and now d6. And she played e4. Again, d5 was totally possible with concrete idea bishop h3, knight d4. If I block position, she can play b4 and then try to make pressure in king's flank. So probably I should play something like knight d7, bishop h3, queen d8, but anyway, it looks like more pleasant for white because bishop on b7 is quite passive. And she played e4, I played e5, so I am ready to structure d5, e5, so I am fighting against b4. So white can play a3, of course, to prepare b4 anyway. But she played queen e3. Also possible h4 here, with the idea to prepare attack probably. So queen e3, it's a little bit strange move. So knight d7, rook c1, rook e8. Rook c1 also, I don't know what is the point. Rook a d1 looks like more natural because black wants to play e5 somewhere, but okay. So it was natural move, but okay, she played this, I played rook e8. Another waiting move, probably in next move I'm ready already to push e5, although it's not clear white can just play h4, for example, if e5, bishop h3, so anyway. But something like this. For example, queen d8, white can take, rook d1, if bishop d6, knight b5. So, but she played e5, now structure is changed, so she took with pawn, very aggressive, because if she wants to simplify this position, more logical to take with knight. So, and something like this, and this is quite drawish. So d takes e5, she's playing for more complicated position. And now I played a4, so my idea is to prepare rook a5, attack his pawn, knight b5, rook d8. Of course, rook a5 is possible immediately as well, but I don't know why I played rook d8. I will explain you, because if rook a5, I afraid knight d4. So, and now after bishop g2, king takes g2, knight c6 is threat. If c6, knight d6 is unpleasant. So, and pawn d6 is rather strong in this position. So this was my reason not play rook a5. So I played rook d8, and because now knight d4 is not so convincing, I can just take on g2 and can play c6. Now, after knight d6 is not fork, so my rook is not attacked, so I can just play queen c7 with idea knight takes e5. Well, maybe even now knight takes f7 necessary to check. What is this? If king takes f7, queen f4 or queen f3, and then take on e6, also possible. So knight has so maybe even here knight d4 was quite a good idea. Okay, so takes. Yes, knight is and queen f4, queen f3. I'm not sure. Maybe queen f3 is even better. Knight takes e6 looks like pretty promising for white. For example, queen b7, knight takes. Something like this. So knight d4 was interesting move actually. Okay, but maybe if I take here and queen b7, queen f3, it's possible. And black has a problem with c6 square. So knight fd4 was possible. So she played rook ed1, rook a5, h4. But h4 is serious inaccuracy. So correct move was queen f4. Idea after c6 to have knight d6 with attacking f7 pawn. And after h6, h4, it will be the game. Because after h4 I played h6 and I totally missed a very nice possibility I could take here. And now if queen takes f3, knight takes e5. And white has compensation, but okay, I have a pawn up. So for example, I can play knight d7, if knight d4, even knight b8 is possible, and to prepare bishop f6. And if bishop takes f3, c6 is coming. And this is again unpleasant for white, because if knight d6, I just can play queen c7 and then take on e5. So if knight d4, knight takes e5. And this, so I could win the pawn with bishop takes f3, but I missed this possibility. Okay, white has compensation. So, but the question is it totally enough or not? After h6, she played queen f4 now, and now such ideas are stopped because after c6, knight d6, f7 is hanging. So I played knight c5, looks like promising because knight d3, but she just came back and now I'm not attacking e5 pawn anymore, so I came back as well. She played, I try knight f8. She came back. So so she agreed for draw. Also, I consider, just a moment, I consider it here. Bishop c6, I consider it move. After bishop c6, even knight d4, knight bd4 was possible. Bishop c6, I consider it like possibility. So here, bishop c6. But white can play even queen e2. So white has very solid position. So after some repeating move, queen e3, I played knight g6. Okay, so after knight d7, I could propose draw. I played knight g6. My idea was to provoke h5 somehow. Not clear how good it is. But at least, for example, if h5, I have bishop takes f3. Now, if bishop takes f3, bishop g5 is coming. Anyway, what is this? Rook takes d8 is possible. After queen takes d8, h takes g6, probably even here. White is totally okay. After bishop takes g2, g takes f7. King takes f7, king takes g2. And looks like even better for white, because after bishop g5, f4 is coming. Also, white has threat queen f3 and rook d1. So h5. Okay, probably after h5, I would just play knight f8 and just continue to play. Right? But after knight f8, white can take, for example, and play knight d4. It's quite promising position. For example, takes, knight c6 is coming. If queen d7, queen f3, or queen e4, so c6 square is always problem for black. So took, queen e2, queen c8, rook d1, and only now I realized that idea which I could play after h4. So bishop takes f3 was strong, but I realized it only now, this idea. And I took on f3. Now, if queen takes, I can take on e5, so she's taken with bishop c6. Again, if knight d6, queen c7 is good for me, because white cannot protect e5 pawn successfully. Knight takes f7 and bishop h5 doesn't work, because black can take on e5 with rook or even with queen. But she played correctly h5, and now I should take on e5, because if this, it's quite unpleasant for me. For example, if b takes c4, white has idea to take. Bishop h5 check. If g6, queen e4 is coming. So at least white will have draw, maybe even something more, I don't know. Maybe this variation. Okay, maybe white cannot win. Can. Who knows, for example. Rook d6, rook e5. So maybe this is just a draw. But okay, white has other possibilities. Black has quite permanent problem with his king. So rook d4, for example. Idea to prepare rook f4, so light squares are really dangerous for black. So I took on e5, probably the best choice. Queen takes e5. Takes, and now I have a good structure, but I have problem with my rook, so I need time to come back my rook into the game. Fortunately, white cannot do special threats, so I played bishop f6, queen e2, queen c5, bishop c6, rook a7. So my plan is rook c7, rook c8, and rook d8. But okay, it's enough only for draw. So this is totally drawish already. Solves. Another interesting game, another Grünfeld. So rook c1. Now Jan Nepomniachtchi he played knight d7 in this position, but played queen a5, queen d2, rook d8. Another theoretical line is takes with knight, rook d8, knight b3, e6, bishop b5, and white is slightly better here. So rook d8, d5, e6, and he played c4. So the theoretical line here is bishop g5. And after f6, white has choice between bishop e3 or bishop f4. Both is possible. Many games of play. Rook e8 is unpleasant because d6 is coming and then h4, h5, white has serious attack. It was my game against Norwegian Grandmaster Paolo. I won the game, but my position during the game was quite bad. So after c4, according to the theory, it's not the best line. Takes. I played b6. Another possibility is knight a6 with idea. If bishop e2, I can play this. Rook c2, b6 probably. It's an interesting game. But I played b6 immediately. White has choice, so he can play f4, he can play h4, but he played bishop e2, knight a6, knight b4. This is theory. I remember that black is fine, but not so easy. Bishop d3. He played, if for example rook e1, I can take. Then take. This type of position, rook d7 for example, and rook e8 is coming. Looks like promising for black. So he played bishop d3. Bishop a6 is very natural because my threat is take on d5. Utilize that bishop on d3 is not protected. But bishop g5. So obviously white cannot play rook fc1 because e takes d5. If e takes d5, knight takes d5. If rook takes c3, just take and d4 is coming. Black is winning. E takes d5, bishop takes d8, d takes e4. But rook d7 was a possible move. Very natural move, idea to take on d5 twice. So it's threat. For example, if rook e1 takes, black can do something. Black can take with rook even. Or take with knight. If bishop e4, rook e8. If c takes d5, f5. It's an excellent position. During the game, I was sure that rook fc1 is good for white, but it's not totally true. After rook fc1, black has h6. And White has problem with his bishop, what to do. For example, if bishop f4, e takes d5. g5 is less precise because white can play bishop g3. After e takes d5, e takes d5. If knight takes d5, now bishop f5 is coming. But after bishop f4, black can take immediately. And now after rook takes c3, black can play bishop takes c3. g5 immediately, white has c takes d5. Bishop d3, rook takes d3, g takes f4, and here white is quite good. But bishop takes c3, rook takes c3, and now black can play g5. This is very important because white cannot play bishop e3 because d4 is coming. So bishop g3, and now g takes c4, knight takes c4. And again, black has choice. So rook takes d3, it's possible. Rook takes d3, bishop takes c4. Black is pawn up, but white has good chances for draw after rook d6 or rook d7 even. Also possible to play rook a d8 here with idea if bishop f1, rook d1. So it's quite an interesting position, but I don't know exactly how to evaluate it. At least black has idea after f3 to take on f1 and rook d4, but it looks like drawish. I don't know if black has something else. But okay, so I played e takes d5, bishop takes d8, d takes e4. Now white has choice again. He played bishop f6, very creative move, but also was possible take on e4, and now I have choice. Another important moment I can consider rook takes d8, e takes, rook takes. I considered this during the game, but unfortunately I didn't find anything attractive for me after c takes d5, bishop takes d3, rook takes c3, bishop takes c3, rook d1. Obviously I cannot play c4 because knight takes c4 and rook c1. And if bishop e2, rook e1, white wants to play d6, and if king f8 now, d6, king e8, very important trick, rook e1 check. And after king d7, rook e7 check. And after king takes d6, rook e3. So this is this idea. Now black cannot take on d2. So c4 is only move, and I'm not sure about rook takes d3 and knight e4, but after simple takes, it's obvious that only white can play for win in this position. Okay, black has chances to survive, but it's not pleasant. So I took on e4. Bishop f6. Bishop takes e4 was another possibility. I can take here and play this position. Similar to game. Also I can take here, and now bishop f3 is coming. This idea, rook e1, rook e3 to prepare somehow. Position looks very active for black, but it's not difficult. It's difficult to create something concrete. For example, if b5 looks like good, because after c takes b5, knight takes b5, surprisingly. Bishop takes b5 is possible as well, but bishop takes b5, rook fc1. And It looks like draw. D1 is protected, so if rook a2, h4 just coming. So black should play rook a2 only move, and this is draw. If bishop d5, rook d2. But after knight takes b5, it's unpleasant for white somehow, because black has idea knight d4 or knight takes a3 in many variations. But after b5, white can play knight b3. This is better somehow. Idea to take on c5 with knight. For example, if b takes c4, knight takes c5, bishop b5. Now rook fc1 is possible, even a4, knight takes a4. Okay, even this is possible, so black is pawn up, but chances to win are not so big. White can just play something. Rook c7, for example. So, very drawish. Also, I consider it even knight e2 check, and rook takes d8, but okay, it's quite complicated. Knight b3 is possible, for example. Sorry, knight b3, knight c3. Not knight b3, so rook e1 probably is the best. Yes, rook e1 is the best. Okay, it's balanced position. But he played bishop f6. I took. Rook takes c3, rook takes d3. Of course, if white will manage to exchange rooks, it will be advantage for them, but I'm trying to prevent this. So bishop d4. Now, if rook e1, of course, I will play king f8, not allow rook e7. This is possible, but I have some kind of domination. If king f1, somewhere I can consider even b5 possibility. I don't know how strong it is, but at least it's possible. For example, takes, rook b8, and then king e7, king e6, king d5 can be planned for black. So he played rook b1, bishop c8. So I'm trying to utilize moment to activate my bishop. So rook c1, bishop f5, rook b3, rook e8. Rook d8 is also possible, but after rook d8 he has knight f1 idea. And then knight e3 is coming somehow. So rook e8, king f1, king f8, h3, h5, rook e1, rook d8. So I have good domination here. White has permanent weak pawn on c4. If rook e2, bishop c2 is unpleasant somehow, because white cannot play rook f3, bishop d1. So he played knight e4, and I played bishop g7. Now I'm ready to play rook d4. Not immediately, so immediately after rook d4 he can play knight takes c5. Also, if, for example, I played, if imagine that I'm playing bishop h8, he can play f3 again, and after rook d4 again white can take here. I have g7 square for my king, but it doesn't help me a lot. So. Sorry, rook e8, of course. And I'm losing my bishop, and it should be draw. For example, this. Something like this. So f3, bishop e6, rook c1, rook d4, rook c3. Fortunately for white, they are able to defend And now I played bishop h6, rook c2, bishop f5, king e2, and bishop e4. I offer a draw, and position's really drawish, so the most logical is move repetitions by this way. Okay, maybe I could try something else. To play quiet. So f5 is possible. I considered this move during the game, but after knight f2, unfortunately for me, bishop d2 doesn't work, rook d3, and I cannot take anything. But I can do something like king e7, for example. So my plan, king f6, h4, probably somewhere I can penetrate with king on g3 in future even. So I could try to play this, but okay, it's not forcing, but practically I have chances, because white pieces are quite passive, so c4 pawn is permanently weak, and so probably it was the best try. Okay, white can play knight d3, because bishop takes c4 and rook d3, it's possible, but I'm not sure that black is better here, even rook a4 is possible. And if something else like king f6, white can try knight b2 to prepare rook d3. Try to exchange rook. Okay, so it's unclear position, but anyway, black is not worse. The question, however, how big are winning chances for black? But okay, so I made draw, and another game. So e3 I played a6, b3, c5, bishop b2, knight c6. Usually black is playing c takes d4. Now take with knight, bishop b4 is quite comfortable for black. So e takes d4, knight c6, knight bd2, g6, and then bishop d3, bishop g7, castle, castle. If c5, black can play b6. Also knight d7 is possible with two ideas, to play e5 or to take on c5 as well, or to play b6. So, okay, c5 is not necessary probably. Okay, maybe rook e1 is possible. So, no, of course, in this pawn structure, black can develop his knight also to d7. So, for example, b6 is totally normal move, and then bishop b7, knight bd7, and bishop e7, castle, more or less standard type of position. But he played knight c6, and now after knight bd2 can be the same. After c takes d4, e takes d4. Now I have more reason to consider knight takes d4, but also I'm not sure if this is a serious advantage. Black can play bishop d7, for example, or even just take here, take with knight bishop b4 check, if take with bishop b5 is coming, and bishop b7. Okay, maybe white is slightly better, I don't know, but so it's another game. So knight bd2 was possible, of course, but I took on d5. Now my idea is that if knight is taken, I can take on c5, and black has problem with his pawn on g7. But he took on. I played knight c3. Bishop e2 looks like natural, but after bishop e2 he can take. After knight takes d4, bishop b4 check, and now he's provoking me to play bishop c3, because after knight c3 he has knight e4, or even queen a5 firstly, and then knight e4. And after bishop c3, bishop d6, and bishop on c3 is not so good like on b2. In such type of position. But okay, it's Anyway, it's playable for both. I played knight c3, and after bishop g4, there is position from my game against Van Forest, Dutch grandmaster. So against Van Forest was d4, c4 e6, knight c3, c5. This was move order cd, ed, knight f3, knight f6, e3, a6, b3, knight c6, bishop b2, bishop g4. It was my game against Van Forest, but position is same. So takes, bishop b4. Okay, of course, black has other possibilities. So bishop b4 is possible, but nothing wrong with bishop e7 and then castle. So bishop b4 takes, knight a4, rook e8, knight c5. I played rook c1 may be possible as well, but after rook c1, black can probably try knight e4, and if knight c5, knight d2. Although necessary to check how strong, surely this is good for white. It's complicated. For example, queen d7, knight c5, queen d6. Okay. a3, for example, knight takes f1. Queen takes f1. It's quite creative position. Probably white is even better here. So rook c1 was logical alternative anyway. I played knight c5, he played b6, knight e7, g3, h6, bishop g2, queen d7. So nothing special. Maybe now queen f5 was more precise, not allow knight e5 at all. But okay, he played this, knight e5, and I exchanged queens, so endgame is promising for me. But black has many defensive resources. Knight e8. I'm not sure that knight e8 is the best, but he played this. Maybe knight d7 was possible, but after knight d7, bishop c1. This idea, knight f4, bishop f4 in some moment. Now, knight e8, he played bishop h3. Interesting was knight e5 here. This idea to play knight d7 and provoke b5. So if knight c7, knight d7 is possible. I'm provoking b5, and now I have square c5 for my knight. So I can just play king f1, for example. Knight on d7 is good because I not allow him to activate his king. So knight e5 probably was better. But I played bishop h3, also normal move, knight c7. My initial idea was to play bishop d7 after knight e6. King f1. Probably it's also possible. I don't know why I changed my mind later. No, knight f5, for example, bishop c5, c6. Knight e7, bishop b7, king f8. Black is ready to play king e8 and trying to defend. So knight e5, knight e6. Knight d7 is possible again now. Probably it was strong move, because provoke b5 is positionally useful for white. Bishop c7 is possible, but after bishop c7 I can just play, for example, king f1. A waiting move, idea to improve my king. And for example, this, bishop c3, and black is in trouble. They are losing d5 pawn. So knight d7 was a very good option for me. But I played king f1, nothing bad. But after knight f8, I started to play something strange. I played king e2. Much stronger was bishop g2 here. Bishop g2, and idea if f6, I have knight c6. This is very important trick, and this is really unpleasant for black. And g6 not possible because knight g4 with two threats, with three threats: knight f6, knight h6, and knight e3. So only move h5, but now white can play king e2, g6 somehow. Okay, black is not losing immediately, but situation is pretty unpleasant for black. But I played king e2, he played f6, and I started to play f4, g5. Now, strange choice I have. I played f5. Of course, this position is very close to draw, but I could take here, and in future I can try to think about utilize h pawn. For example, this knight f5. Prepare king f3, h4. Okay, probably black can hold this position. Maybe not knight f5, maybe something else. Maybe just start with king f3 or if bishop g2 is possible, knight c7. And now the problem not so easy to play h4, while black is ready to play f5. But I played f4, and after g5 I played f5, and this position is totally drawish because I have no plan. So I tried to play some moves, and then we agreed to draw. And last game, which I played yesterday, I was black. So c4, e6, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, c6, e3, knight d7, bishop, queen c2, bishop d6, b3, castle. And usually white is playing bishop b2 or bishop e2. The difference, if bishop e2, if e5 takes, knight b5. This, a6, takes, knight d4. And white is slightly better in this position, according to theory. But my opponent played bishop d3, surprisingly. I remember that there is theoretical recommendation to play e5, but I didn't check this variation accurately, so I decided not to play it. Okay, so e5, I mean this, bishop b2. So white is ready to play knight e2 or knight b5. If d4, knight again, white has knight e2 not possible because queen a5 check, of course, and d takes a3 is coming. But knight b5 is possible, and during the game I wasn't sure what is this. For example, queen a5 check, just king f1, and then white will take the pawn. So it was unclear. Probably there is some new theory. I don't know. It's necessary to check. So I decide to play just b6, castle, bishop b7, bishop b2, and I played h6. My idea to provoke him to play e4 and takes, knight f6, and then c5 is coming. Also, another idea is f5 and c5, but I'm not sure in this position because d5. Okay, d4, something like this. It's also possible. So after h6, he played h3. Not necessary. Rook a d1 looks like very natural move, and to prepare e4. So black has choice queen e7 or queen c7. But if queen c7, maybe e4 takes. This is better version for white than in previous variation because queen on c7. For example, if f5, bishop d3, c5, d5 takes. And bishop takes d5, just losing the piece because bishop c4. Bishop takes c4, queen takes c4 check, and queen d5 or queen e6 is coming. So, if queen e7, white can play rook now if knight f6, bishop d3, and c5, d5 is pretty unpleasant because if e takes d5, bishop takes f6. Black has many weaknesses in king's long. But okay, he played h3, I played rook e8. He played rook e1. So he's ready to e4. I played c5. I'm not sure is this the best or not. For example, if this c5 is also possible to consider. d5 takes. Something like this. Now, if king h8, white can take and play rook d1. But okay, bishop takes f3. And situation still unclear. If rook d6, queen g5 is coming. It's important. If g takes f3, there is check from g5. Also bishop e5 is possible. Because of course it's tricky. Bishop f5 now. Queen g5 check, king f1. And now even knight f6 is possible. So probably d takes c4 and c5 was alternative. I was afraid that it can be dangerous somehow. But probably black can hold the position. I don't know, but necessary to check, of course. Maybe immediately rook a d1, knight b4 is possible. Bishop also king f8 it's risky because takes queen d2, and the problem black cannot take on f3. But maybe even here situations far from clear. Knight f6. Okay, so bishop f6, g takes f6. Looks like dangerous for black, but maybe not losing as well. Okay, so rook a d1, bishop f3, g takes f3, white has good compensation. But okay, I played rook e8, so I played c5 immediately. He took here. I was considering e4 and d5 pawn sacrifice, but it's very far from. Again, important idea that after king f8, queen d2. So black should play king h8. And now maybe black is okay, for example, if queen f5, bishop takes f3. Okay, maybe bishop e6 even possible, I don't know. Bishop e6, rook takes maybe bishop e6 as well is possible. Rook e6, f takes e6, queen g6. Knight f6, rook d1. Difficult to understand. Bishop h2, king takes h2. Rook, queen takes d1, bishop f6. Okay, queen d7 check, and black is winning. And then bishop f6. So it's just illustration of ideas, but he played bishop h8, and now not so obvious question. Maybe king f8 was even more precise what I played. I played king h8, king f8. Again, I was afraid e4 and d5, and bishop d5, queen d2. But maybe black can take and play knight f6. I don't know, maybe. Maybe this is playable position. Also, I'm not sure white has knight h4 idea, and then knight f5 is coming somehow. But okay, for example, knight h4, bishop takes d5. If knight f5, black has knight takes h7. So probably not so bad for black. White can play bishop d3, however, and then to play knight f5, so white has good compensation. Very active position. So I played king h8, but bishop e4. Takes, knight f6, queen h4. Now it's important that I have weak pawn on f7. So after knight d5, white can play queen h5. And for endgame, of course, my king is worse on on h8 than on g8. But anyway, I played knight d5. So just a moment. Knight d5 I didn't play. Knight d5, queen h5 is very unpleasant. If queen f6, d takes c5, and c takes d6. This is idea of white. So after queen h4, I took on d4. And now he took with bishop, a reasonable choice, but also probably with knight was even more attractive because white has ideas. Knight c6, knight b5, knight f5, something like this. And if, for example, queen d7, rook d1, rook d8, now knight f3. It's possible and pleasant somehow. Queen e7 looks like only move.
So we use knight f5.
knight f5. Maybe it works, but what here? I don't see mate. If rook d4, rook e4. So probably black is able to defend this. So queen d7, this. Okay, probably we can consider also this. If queen takes b5, bishop f6, g takes f6, queen takes h6, and rook d4. But f5 is coming. If rook h4, queen e5, bishop e5. If rook d1, bishop e7. So it looks like it doesn't.
Bishop h2, check, 4, f5?
Bishop h2? Where?
No, rook d4, and then bishop.
Bishop h2? King takes h2.
Yeah, and I take the
Okay, white will pawn up. Okay, but f5 it's enough.
So, but if you take then d4, it's the e.
Sorry, queen takes f. Now rook d4.
No, sorry. No. I was just thinking it doesn't work. So, queen h6. So if you take bishop f6, g6, queen h6, king g8, rook d4, bishop a2, and then you can take the d4 and...
Yes, but white is just pawn up.
Sorry.
And black has very bad king. Okay, queen g5, but anyway, it's black is pawn down, so...
Yeah.
Okay, but so black positions looks like shaky a little bit, but I didn't see a clear way for white how to win or at least fix advantage. Maybe even a4 is possible, for example. So I expected he will take with knight, but he took with bishop. It's also reasonable. I played e5, bishop b2. I played rook c8. He played rook c1. If rook d1, queen e7. So he played this, queen e7. So I want to consolidate my pieces somehow. White slightly better here, but after knight d2 I have bishop b4 idea. So he played queen a4. I just wait. Okay, it's pleasant, but probably for white was logical also wait, like king f1, because king f1 for endgame is useful move. But he tried to play something more forcing, so what he played? So he played rook d1. I took, so he lost tempo. And now I played queen d7. I want to exchange queens. Of course, white can play queen c4, so with slightly better position, but he took. And now he can play rook d1, rook e6, bishop a3, rook takes d7. After a6, I think black can hold this position. But he played quite strange, so after rook e6, and knight d2, also logical move, and then knight c4, so for example, bishop c7, knight c4, I have some move with knights, but anyway, white is slightly better. White is playing without any risk here. Knight d2, was possible, but he played king f1, and now I played king f8. So now my king is ready to be on e7. If rook c1, I have knight c5 with idea if b4, knight d3. Or if king e2, I can play king somewhere. If b4, now knight a4 is coming. But so after king f8, he played bishop a3, but now I have no obligation to take on a3, I just played king e7. So he took. Probably the most logical for white was just to play rook c1, not exchange rook. Because knight endgame, my king is more active, so rook c1 was more precise, but he took on d6. King takes d6, king e2. I played knight c5, knight d2. Maybe knight e1 was possible also, and knight c2. So king d5. My idea was to play after f3 after f3 to play e4. After b4 just take and try to play this position. But he played knight b1. He wants knight c3, but I played knight e4, f3, knight d6, knight c3 check, and I played king c5 and offer a draw. I think it's premature decision from me, because here I have some winning chances, surprisingly, because I want to play king b4. If white not playing, for example, this is possible. If this, okay, I can do something. Probably nothing serious, but I can consider knight f5. For example, if knight b5, this. If knight takes a7, knight takes e3, and my pieces are more active than white ones. So my problem was that I considered a3, and I was sure that I have no any progress in this position, but after a3 just b5 is coming. And suddenly, again, situation is not so clear for white, because I want to play b4. For example, if king d3, b4, if this, knight f5 is unpleasant somehow. e3 it's attacked, and also knight h4 is threat. Okay, maybe white can hold this position, but not so pleasant.
So instead of when you play b5, when you play after b5, you play b5, knight e4 is not good, no?
Knight e4?
Yes.
Maybe possible, maybe.
It seems it's blockade more or less, I don't know.
Maybe, but we can... Yes, maybe you are right. Maybe this... But anyway, white should find this, so a5, king d3 probably. Yes, and now king d6 somehow. Okay, it's very likely this is draw, because position is blocked, so very possible that this is draw. But okay, at least I could try this chance. Also possible. Play for white something like this, knight b1, b4, a4, something like this, e4, f4, something like this. Okay, probably white can hold this position, but still I can try to do something. Okay, so for today is enough. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
with my son together?
Yes, yes, of course.
And you finish, no?
It's a big
Yes.
part.
Yes.
I'm gonna take the TV.